Hi class, it's Professor D, Professor Deanna Olsen. I'm so glad to see you tonight. Glad you came. I appreciate your effort in being here. I'm going to start off with a story. I want you to kind of just take it in. This lesson's really just an overview, so I want you to just take this in, be calm, be relaxed. Just take the information in. So let's say you work at a daycare center, and you have a child that you work with day to day, and mom drops him off early, and he just seems really stressed out, doesn't want to leave mom, clinging, crying, but she has to go, so she drops him off, and you're able to get him calmed down within a few minutes and get him distracted doing something else. Day goes pretty well. Then late afternoon comes, and he just wants his mom. He's just done. He wants his mom. He wants to go home. Nothing you do seems to help. It goes on for over an hour. Then mom shows up. She's signing him in. She looks over at him, and he looks up, and boy, the waterworks start. He's just freaking out, raising his arms in the air. Mom, mama, mama, mama. She comes over, picks him up, pats him on the back, whispers in his ear. He's quiet. No more behavioral issues going on with this kid. Why? Okay, keep that question in your mind. Why? Right? So today we're going to go over John Bowlby's attachment theory. Okay, it's a very basic overview. We're going to talk about the definition, who John Bowlby was, and how the theory is connected into our adult relationships. Okay, once again, an overview. We'll dive deeper into these areas. Oh, and we're also going to go over attachment styles. But once again, we're just doing an overview tonight. Okay. Two questions I want you to keep in mind as we're going through. What influences children to turn out the way they do? Okay. And what affects a child's ability to form those meaningful and satisfying relationships early on all the way through adulthood? Okay. Now, attachment theory, you may be asking why we're learning about this. You may have already guessed, but attachment theory is relevant to your life because if we can learn how we attach to our caregivers, we can then know a little bit more about how we're attaching to people as adults and whether we need to improve in some areas or we're doing just fine in those areas. Okay? So, are there any questions before we get started? Yes, I forgot to say this. I do have a PowerPoint for this and this recording. So, the PowerPoint you'll be seeing as we go through, and the recording will be in course resources after we're done here tonight, probably by tomorrow morning. And then you can just download those and use those at will. Okay? Great question. Thank you. All right, so attachment theory was developed by John Bowlby. He was really curious about how children and infants attach to their parents. He was a psychoanalyst, and in the 1950s, he hypothesized that the extreme behavior that children show when they're being separated from their parents is actually an evolutionary mechanism. And he set out to prove that. Attachment in his according to Bowlby, attachment behaviors are instinctive responses to a perceived threat of losing the primary caregiver. The infants who engage in those behaviors through natural selection were surviving because it was reinforced over generations, and it made up what Bowlby termed attachment behavioral system. So basically, a child cries, mom or dad respond, the child survives. Natural selection over generations, that's repeated. Those are the children that survive. All right, do we have any questions before we jump into attachment? Just a brief overview of attachment styles. Okay, great, let's do it. All right, so there were researchers who were researching John Bowlby's theory, attachment theory, and they came up with three primary attachment styles. The first one is, as you can see on the PowerPoint, secure attachment. Okay, so secure attachment is when, like the child in the story, child cries, mom picks up, child's comforted. Real easy. Okay, or fairly easy. The second one is ancient resistant attachment. Okay, so this is when a child is forced to be separated from mom, but when mom or dad comes back, boy, are they ticked off. They're angry, they want to punish their parent, they're just mad. Okay, avoidant attachment. These are kids who don't show any stress on separation. They're ignoring their parent. They don't care if they come or go. Okay, sometimes we see that in special education. Just to give you an example, there are other factors too, but that's just one of them. And then later years, the disorganized, disoriented attachment. That is when you can't predict anything. We don't know if what the child's going to do because it changes all the time. Okay. So real quickly here, we're going to break off into 4 groups. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to break you off, so don't stress out. You're going to break off into 4 groups. Each group is going to have one attachment style, and you're going to try to come up with an example of that attachment style. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that, so it's pretty quick, but I think you can do it. I know you can do it. Okay, here we go. It'll just show up on your screen, and then I'll pull you right back at the end, okay? Boom, go. Okay, everyone's back. All right, group 1, secure attachment. Give me your example. Remember, this is a healthy child, just everything's good. Okay, yeah, that was pretty easy. We had that example in the beginning. Do you have another one? Okay, great. All right, number 2, anxious resistant attachment. Okay, great. Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Okay, avoidant attachment, group 3. Okay, yeah, we do see that. Okay, great. Good job. And number 4, disorganized, disoriented attachment. Okay, all right, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now I want you to remember, just a quick note here, keep those examples in your head, okay? Because those will help you to recognize these different attachment styles, okay, as we go through in more depth. All right, great. We'll go back to the PowerPoint now. So the attachment style is largely a function of the caregiver-child relationship in the early years. Those who received the love and support they needed tended to be more secure later in life, early on and later in life, and those who experienced inconsistency or just neglect tended to be, from their caregivers, tended to be just more anxious people. Attachment theory takes us into adulthood, but because what we learn early in life, we take into our adult lives. And like I said before, sometimes it's in our subconscious, we're not even recognizing that we're doing this. So it's good to learn about these attachment styles and apply them to ourselves so we can learn and grow from that knowledge. Okay, you guys did great over the course of this lesson. I want to ask if there's any questions. Okay, once again, you can download this, okay, when we're done. So tonight we went over Bowlby's attachment theory, what the definition is, the attachment styles, how we see it push into adulthood, those attachment styles. And we're going to quickly go over those questions. What influences children to turn out the way they do? Any volunteers? Okay, Nicole? Okay, great. Awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you. And what affects a child's ability to form those meaningful and satisfying relationships? Seth? Okay, yeah. So according to attachment theory, yes, you're right, that in the early years it's important to have that security so that we can then have it later in life. Great, thank you for that answer. Okay, I'm going to leave one final thought with you before we close tonight. As you go throughout this week, observe human behavior. I want you to go through and just kind of like, as you go day to day, just notice how kids are reacting to their parents, how other people are talking to each other. See if you can assign attachment styles to people, is just quietly in your mind. as you go throughout your week. This is really going to help you to solidify this knowledge in your head and give you a really good basic foundation to start to dive deeper into the course, which is going to happen starting next week. Our next lesson is going to be more about Bowlby, but also Ainsworth and the history and the psychology of attachment theory. Okay, so you guys did great tonight. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Email me, text me with call or with questions. I'd love to hear from you. I will help you. I promise I will. You're going to do great in this course. Okay, everybody, good night.